Now, you can never have too many big guns in Battletech. Lots and lots and lots of guns. And we start to see this, of course, as we move up in battle value, as we move up in tonnage. It just kind of makes sense. The more tonnage, the more I can mount stuff on. On the opposite kind of framework of that, vehicles are a great way to increase your tonnage, get heavier machinery on the table, get more weapons on the table, but the battle value is lowered because vehicles are a lot more vulnerable in the rules in terms of mechs. 1-to-1, you look at a vehicle, you look at a mech that are about the same in terms of tonnage and weapons, and you say the vehicle battle value is much less, but you're subject to some very, very devastating critical hits. You've got to navigate terrain differently than a mech, and you're vulnerable to motive hits, whether that's treads, tires, or hover cushions. I've pushed up to the Battletech playlist here, exploring some vehicle tactica. We go into more detail, but I want to focus on 100-ton heavy tanks in this vlog. And it's challenging for me to say this because I love big guns. I love tanks. I mean, I love mechs, but I love tanks. And I want to love really, really heavy, big tanks. I want to love the behemoth. I want to play these type of tanks, but there's certain challenges in playing them. And I often ask myself the question, for the battle value that's not earning, am I better off taking mass artillery? Just flooding the table with mass artillery or field guns where I can get that same volume of dice and firepower, but for much, much less or equal battle value, and I'm not vulnerable. So here's a framework. I made a mistake. I realized when it was happening, and it seemed like a good idea in the moment, but it didn't quite work out. We were playing Inner Sphere versus Clans, and it was City Fight, City Tech, one of my favorite games, scenarios. I'm playing Inner Sphere, and we've got the Clans attacking. They're going to attack either on the left and or the right side of the table. So half of my forces had to be set up in the center of the city center. I had to protect the hospital and the heliport. And then hidden units, the other half, I could put wherever I want on the table. And we have a little map and I mark it out. So I took 2, and my opponent doesn't have to know what the rules were. They didn't have to know what units I had taken. Just I put half out and they see that, and then the other half is in reserve. And we were playing 16K battle value. That's got a lot of bite. That's got a lot of great stuff. 16K Clans is like, you at least got a couple of things, but Clans are very expensive. I had infantry. I had tanks. I had air support. I had lances ready to go. I mean, it was just crazy. So I take 2 100-ton behemoth tanks. I've got the miniatures. I haven't played them in a while. And my thought was, okay, I don't know what side they're going to come in on. I don't know if it's going to be a refused flank, which just means they load up all their clan stuff on the right side of the table and come in and just forget the left. I don't know if they split. I don't know if they're going to put the heavier stuff on the right, the faster stuff on the left, try to blitz in. So I thought, because I don't know that, I will use these tanks as an anchor point. I'll throw 1 tank hidden on the left, 1 tank hidden on the right. You can see that mistake right there. I've got the guns, but I've got no speed. The behemoth tank is essentially Irby with treads, but at least Irby's got some character. It is too slow. So whatever side that I'm on, when the clans come in, they're just going to run by that tank. I'll get a turn or 2 of shooting, and that's it. Likewise, if they do refused flank and they put everything over on the right side, then that behemoth tank on the left is useless. It'll take the whole game, and it did take the whole game to make it over there. I would have been better off, and this is the kind of the framework tactica on these heavier tanks, I would have been better off taking those 2 tanks, hiding them. I don't want to put them out in the city center because then my opponent knows. I would have been better off hiding them in the city center in a building with my demolishers, which at least I did that right. And this way, the clans are coming to the tanks. The tanks are not chasing them down. 100-ton tanks that are slow, you can't They're not, they're defensive tanks. You can't chase units down. I mean, you could attack if you're clicking to one point, but the challenge here is motive hits. When you get hit, when tanks get hit in Battletech and your movement gets chewed down, slow tanks, even if I'm attacking, even if I'm like, look, I'm putting my tank here, you're 20 hexes away, the target. I'm just going to drive straight line to that. Anything that gets in the way, I'm going to blast with like 30 medium lasers and short-range missile packs. That doesn't really work because you just have a fast-moving unit or even some warriors, and you just snipe, side or rear armor, greater chance for motive hits, greater chance for crits because it's not forward-facing armor. And now I'm like 6 or 7 hexes in, and my tank is immobilized. Things are out of range. It's battle value that is just not earning. So I would have been better off taking these tanks, putting them in the center, hiding them, and letting the clans come to me. And then reveal the demolishers so they can kind of act, and then reveal the behemoths. What I did was put one on the left, one on the right. The clans completely loaded up on I think the right side, on one side of the table. Came in. The behemoth did some damage, but got motive hits, got immobilized, and then the rest of the game, that other behemoth tank just moving 2 hexes, 3 hexes, 3 hexes. I like infantry, get out and push this thing, right? I mean, an ogre tank moves faster than that, and an ogre tank is bigger. So pushing from that perspective and how it operates, vastly different. So within this framework, now here's the question, and I love my tanks. Are certain tanks in Battletech just too heavy? Just because it exists in Battletech doesn't mean it's the most optimal thing to take. And some things we take because we love to play it. I love my Banshee. Some things we take because it's a campaign and you found it. Some things you take for the lulls, like running my Charger with 12 Locusts, kind of doing the refused flank deployment zone bomb, right? Just for the lulls, have some fun. But in terms of pure Tactica, if I'm looking at the meta, based on the rules, just because you can stack a 100-ton tank doesn't mean you should. Would you be better off? I mean, yes, you could take other units, but would I be better off taking that battle value and just taking mass thumpers and blasting you with artillery? Yes, we've got the spread. Yes, we've got to kind of figure out the target. But if it's this rolling carpet of artillery, that might be a better use than something that has a lot of guns, a lot of guns, but just is too slow, especially on a bigger gaming table, and too vulnerable to motive hits where you're moving 3 hexes a turn. You take 1 or 2 or 3 turns of shooting, and now you're immobilized. And if you're immobilized in that wrong space, that's that. So your thoughts on 100-ton tanks. And a 100-ton tank is vastly different than a 100-ton battle mech because the movement rules and the penalties for movement are vastly different.